Report. We're calling upon one of the strangest things in existence.
Neil Armstrong may have seen extraterrestrials on the moon.
When he spies a discernible shape.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there. And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Welcome to the Backstage episode with Philip Kensilla. Welcome to Full Spectrum Universe. I am Rob Yox. That is Philip. Philip, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much, and glad to be on your show. Thank you very much, Rob. Wonderful.
Awesome. We just actually did the first hour that we put out on YouTube and Facebook. I think that it was an exceptional show. I can't wait. I hope we get a chance to do more of them because I think that we just kind of scratched the surface of everything right now. I feel like we can go into so much more depth eventually once we come on. We'll try and set a specific precedent for that specific show, and we'll do a few of them so people can get deeper and deeper into your research. But I think it was a fantastic show.
Thank you very much. Well, it's I'm very honored, and it's interesting when we're dealing with subjects that are controversial within content, and whatever theoretical model you apply to your research will always raise eyebrows. And as we said before, this is nothing new within any form of academia that you're dealing with, because we find that most of the times, most of those guys who are researching within the official narrative has to follow the lead. And if you step outside the box, dare you do that, or you have a different thought or a new thought, then you are instantly quashed. But what is wonderful about the psychic and UFO phenomenon, as we term it, is that we can think outside the box, because we're not getting anything from the systems that continuously tell us that psychic phenomena does not exist and UFOs are not a reality. Yet we know instantly and for fact that is not the case. And as we said before, either we're lying or they're lying, and this leads us into a darker agenda, as it were, from a system which cares little. It makes it appear as though they care for you, that they're worried for you. But what we are continuously seeing on the TV and media is negativity, fear, control. And now we're seeing a real incredible rise in this anger and fear, where the establishments are trying to maintain their control and trying to put us in our place, because they're not giving us the full facts of what's going on. And I believe that a lot of people are waking up, not just because of what we're going through with regards to this pandemic at the moment, but because this answers the questions that they've been trying to figure out for a long time, that once again we're being fooled. Now, you can have the right side and the left side, rather like the right-sided brain or the left-sided brain. In this matter, it appears to me that the establishments are beginning to lose control, because quite rightfully, people are clever. The Joe public, God love them, are very clever. They're not stupid. And if they smell a rat, they'll find it. So there's no conspiracy. I've said before, the word conspiracy is a psychological weapon used to turn the finger of doubt upon the inquiring mind. And I think now people are beginning to realize that they've been had. And statistically, the system will continuously impose its power and its wrath upon the populace. But there's only 1%. There is only 1% that actually controls the world. There is 99% that does not. Now, through a lot of the, if I may go into the process of what's happening at the moment, is that you'll see this fear-mongering and hatred because the system is wanting people to turn against people. It doesn't think twice about putting something on the internet about, a certain faction of people against another certain faction of people. And it will quite happily broadcast that to create that anger, to create that negativity, to create all of this disruption. It wants it, because the system feeds from fear. It also feeds from negativity. It feeds from disruption. And I think a lot of researchers out there, especially David Icke, who is a dot connector and a very much respected man. I have the utmost respect for David and his research and his books. And you find that when you read his amazing books, that you are on the same page as him, and he is with you. So, they blotted him out. They got rid of him. And also with the other guy over in your part of the pond, very rich guy, I can't remember his name. He was like a David Icke in America, but they shut him down. Oh gosh, he talks quite rough like this,
Alex Jones.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
And then you find out that, with him, a brilliant man, you find out that he tried to break into one of these secret ceremonies, the cremation of care, to find out that a lot of these supposed leaders and people in charge in top-notch jobs are actually performing some form of Sanatic ritual and looking down upon us as the public as the servants to them. So this whole crisis is not just one thing. It's a whole thing that's been leading up to this moment, and I think we're going to see some very extraordinary times ahead of us. And this is not just about the pandemic. This also categorically proves that other incidences around the world, with regards to not just the UFO reality or psychic phenomenon, is that the public have been led in this equation of fear and told to shut up, do as you're told, pay your taxes, don't ask any questions, live, believe what we tell you, and then die. And of course, people are fed up now. They're throwing down their tools. And they're like, well, hang on just a minute. Who the hell are you to tell me that one, UFOs don't exist, that two, psychic phenomena isn't there, and you're telling me now that I'm going to have something given to me that I can't trust. So we can see that throughout the ages, this systematic control has been imposed by those initiates at the top of what we call the symbolic pyramid of power. And who are these nameless, faceless bureaucrats that control behind the scenes? We know that they are linked with the rich families. I know that speculation has been pointed towards the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and the Bilderbergs, and so on and so forth. And when people say on the street, "Oh, it's all conspiracy," or they just read it in the newspaper, but when you yourself start digging, when you yourself start putting your dots together, you will begin to find, bar from all of the faked or the deliberate tampering of facts, you will begin to find that things are not how they appear. And I believe that this power, this organization, is wrathful and unkind, unloving. And I think there's a war going on, and has been silently behind the scenes, to control us, or subjugate us, because there's too many of us on the planet. And, it's creating a problem. And I think that the few want to control all of that. They'll have a few slaves they want left. Unfortunately, we are known as the slave labor force, the herd. I hate that. I really hate that word, the herd, or, the cattle. It's horrible.
Well, here's my take on that too, and I think that you're dead on. You are right on the money with that. I'm just going to go a little bit towards the abstract sides of it. I feel that, like you said, these specific 1%ers want immortality. They want reverence, as if they were a god, okay? As if they were the Almighty himself. But what they've done is they've given into Luciferian and satanic rituals and tactics. And what their main focus is to lower with the fear. When you fear, it lowers your vibration.
Oh, yes.
So they have these dark entities that they've allowed to come to this planet or in this dimension that
Yes.
feed off of this fear and this lowered vibration, which ends up with these people who have been programmed to almost let these entities in, where their
Yes.
soul is completely vanished from the vessel. They're like, I like to say it like this, that like if you had a car, there's no driver behind the wheel. They're acting on pure animalistic instinct instead of with their intelligence and their God-given knowledge, right? So
Yes.
and what this is it's basically that these 1%ers have radicalized these people to in turn destroy every construct of a calm, collected society that we have. And they've activated these cells, which are to take the people such as the light bearers and bring them into subjugation, like you said. And this subjugation is where they can feed off of these people as well. But they know that these people with this higher vibration have a higher resonance in the spectrum. So they're feeding to gain this immortality, this aspect of more and more and more. It's kind of like they're addicted to this power now. And you know what? An addict just wants more and more, can never get enough. And it's so damning because when you see these people on television, on YouTube, on these places, you can see the loss of soullessness in their face, that they've almost become the demon themselves. And people like Bill Clinton, George Soros, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, you're right on with that. And they're all intermingled. And that Bilderberg group and those secret societies give them that tangling, that entanglement, that gives them the ability to work together. But they've actually brought people into their fold, like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. They're all part of their different operations, the science aspect, the eugenicist aspect. They want to ruin the world to create it again in their image, as if they were a biblical force.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I'll tell you that it's very easy because power, when someone is giving power and control, they end up becoming a god. And I think that on a negative level, you're absolutely correct that these lower energies are able to infiltrate the mind of the person who is linked or opening up to that reality. Now, we have good people and we have bad people. Those people have souls. But I believe that there is a program, a darker program, that has been installed in order to subjugate the light. And people like yourself and myself, and people say, oh, it's all a conspiracy. Well, it's not. I'll tell you something. I was working on You, the Public Deceived, The Grandeur for Deception. That is the book that's coming out in the new year. It's a UFO book that's going to be published through Philip Mental's Flying Disc Press here in England, and it'll be in America as well. But there was a guy in there who was involved with part of the Roswell connection link. I won't say too much, but he was a great old boy. And he wanted to contact me because he wanted to. He had got no interest in UFOs whatsoever. He was initiated in a program that was set out at Edwards Air Force Base in the 50s, in the early 50s. I'm not going to go into detail here, but I had found that my computer had been accessed or was being accessed. And also that he sent me stuff through the post, and we had to do it in a way that no one would kind of try and intercept the post. That doesn't make me sound like I'm sensationalist or something, but it was proven to me that these darker energies, their servants, are watching people like you and me and many other people because they want to know what we know. They want to know who we're connected with. And God forbid, if you start making too much of a noise, they're going to try and get rid of you. It doesn't necessarily mean through murder. It could be that they will try to discredit you, or they will find some way of trying to make things difficult for you. So we can see that this is no conspiracy, that this is a reality, and that there is a darker element connected with this, because when you open yourself up to those darker entities, they will come in. Now, I will tell you that also my twin brother many years ago wanted to find out more about the reptilians, as they are known. as an experiment, he was doing this, and he's documented this in one of his books. And he wanted to connect with them. And, it got to the stage where he actually saw the light above the ceiling when he was laying in bed turning to a reptilian eye, and he freaked. So this is weird stuff, and people will say, oh, it's only in the mind and it's science fiction. No, it's not, because these alternative dimensions of awareness are able to quite easily interact with an individual if there is a belief from the individual to accept that through power, subjugation, and following that power, because these people are promised, as you said, perhaps some form of what they see as eternity, because they probably think that we're not immortal, and we are. And they're giving riches and power. And when someone starts to, through titles or with money and power, they become a god. And we know that there is an agenda to cull humanity because of the overpopulations that we have. But that's not fair, because at the end of the day, we all have the God-given right to be here and to exist and to be who we are, instead of these people telling us what we are and what we should do. And I've always not rebelled, but even in a small workplace, for instance, the smallest of workplaces where you have a managerial system, and you'll have people sometimes who in those positions, they change to become like gods and monsters. So it's all around us. It's not just at the pinnacle of the pyramid that we see. We see it in everyday life, where people think they have power and control, but when they lose it, my God, they lose it. So this is something that's very complicated. And I think the system that we serve, those 1%ers at the top, have their puppets, bring them into the fold and give them loads of money. And whatever side they're on, whether here is Labour or Conservative, or from your side, whatever side, they're all working together for the same cause, because eventually those energies will infiltrate them and get to them. And what will someone do if they offered you a lot of money? You'll do as you're told, because it's going to make you and your family very comfortable. So it's a very complex process. But I do believe that we are dealing with a very darker aspect of this demonic force that has been around for a very long time.
And the other part of that is, a lot of these people who are programmed to serve these bad entities don't realize that they are such a mass of people, that the 1% is so few that once they gain that control, they're going to be the first ones ousted again, just like we're being now, because those people will be able to confront them and relinquish their power. So they're their foot soldiers now, but eventually they will be executed just as the rest are.
Oh,
in
yes.
So many senses of the word.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it's like, I remembered another book, and this type of thing does happen with psychic attack. And people, I used to think, oh, no, it can't happen, until it kind of like happens to you. And you kind of like know when it's happening. And it's a department where you have to experience it in order to understand it's real. I was working on a book called Sky Crash Throughout Time about Rendlesham, co-authored with Brenda Butler. Here in England, in Suffolk, there was a UFO experience in 1980. And I've met Colonel Charles Holt. He's a lovely man. And that's the story. But anyway, there was information coming through from the researcher that I was writing the book with about another reptilian who was known by a lot of top people. And I'm sure that in this web that my brother, myself, and Susan, a friend of ours who used to come on these exploits, had met this guy, or reptilian as it were. How incredible it sounds. Even the Earl of Clancarty knew about it, and a lot of people, the MOD, and even top UFO researchers. Lieutenant Colonel Wendell Stevens was also infiltrated by this individual. So we can see that it's real. I mean, he was a good guy. He wasn't bad. But when I did the research for the book, I discovered that when I was interviewing people, these were no nonsense people. They were black and white. They would say, yes, he was not from here. So it's kind of like takes you outside of that unbelievable bubble, that comfort zone that kind of like shatters. Now, when I was writing the parts about this reptilian man, David Daniels, his name was, he used the pseudonym of David Daniels, is that where the hall is, I saw a guy in a military uniform racing towards me, and it was so quick that I literally nearly fell off my chair, because I was in the kitchen writing this particular part. I can't remember what part it was I was writing of the book, but it was the book at the time. And I started to get ill. And I spoke to another person who was ex-CID. And when I'd speak to him, he'd say, you know, we're being listened to on the phone, we're being recorded. So, you know, these darker energies are able to, you know, connect on different levels. And I understand definitely that this is the programming of certain individuals through military establishments, secret military establishments, a reality. Now, I remembered in the States, there was something here where a young chap had walked into a cinema dressed as the Joker, I think, and shot a lot of people. Now, what was very strange about that, I don't know what it was, and I'm not saying that every murder is committed by someone that's being programmed by someone. But for some reason, I don't know what it was, I just knew that that guy had been some kind of experiment for another organization. And, you know, dare I say it, because you'll be attacked for saying it, but it's what I felt. And I knew that to be the case. And when you look at MK Ultra mind control programs, people who don't understand will say, oh, what a load of rubbish. But again, when you start looking into it, and like David Icke says, joining the dots together, you find that, you know, there's a lot of strange things that's going on. I mean, we were told, for instance, that remote viewing could not be a reality, and yet we discovered that back in the 80s that the American military, through Ingo Swann and through other individuals, were, you know, doing this program, secret program of psychic exploration of consciousness that expands beyond this reality, and be able to time travel backwards and forwards, or even to other planets, as it were. And one of those was Dr. David Morehouse, who broke the story called Psychic Warrior. And he was the one who blew the whistle. And even then, he nearly paid with his life and his family's life when they tried to kill him. And of course, he released his book. And you find with these wonderful individuals who have broken their stories that they seem to go quiet after a long time. So I think it doesn't mean to say that they are not interested in what they're doing. It may be that they have no need to continue their research because it's been proven to them. At least that may be the hypothesis with regards to them. But it certainly shows us that although we are finding ourselves as spiritual entities with love and light, that there is also darkness. And we discover that not just through personal explorations of our lives, but also through the bigger aspect of what's going on in the world. So it's a multi-complex, very deep, and these people are smart. Well, they think they're smart because they'll think that you'll never join the dots. You'll never work out what's going on. And I think that with the UFO phenomenon, which I'm very much interested in, very involved in, these guys, whoever they are, or lasses, it could even be women as well, are so confident and so supremely confident that you won't work out what's going on. But I think we do. I think we've got an idea.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, like you said, this plan that they have, they've been setting it up for a long time. Okay. And there's so many different facets and layers to this plan that to know all of them is difficult. Like you talked about MK Ultra. Well, to piggyback off MK Ultra, which is a mind control type of program, they also have Project Mockingbird, which is where they took the findings of MK Ultra and how they altered people's states of mind, and then they implemented that into mainstream media to affect the masses or to dictate what the narrative is, so they could get the objective effect from the mass that they would is in a single student in the MK Ultra. So what that is like we're talking about, it puts things into power. But to know some of that history helps you in the long run, I think, to figure out what their ultimate scheme is to get to this point, you know? And there is a lot of forces at work. and you talked about them listening all the time. Now, I did a show. I'm on Global Enlightenment Radio Network on Tuesday nights. I had a lady by the name of Kathleen Fitzgerald come on, and she is boots on the ground in Oregon, where the fires are being started. And she said that she saw Antifa starting these fires. But obviously these fires are also meant for an agenda to push global warming, so they can regulate carbon tax and production of things. So they have a greater expanse on that clamp of power, and that goes back to, it's easy to grab the power. It's hard to maintain the power. But so what happens is we talk about a lot of in-depth things that have to do with the deep state, the cabal, their plan to make this sudden rule over people. And come to find out, the next day, 5 military helicopters flew over my house. I'm not near an airport, so they heard something that tweaked in an algorithm somewhere that flagged me, I believe, for that moment. Then they saw another show I did, which was on toxic relationships, and it kind of died down. They thought maybe, I don't know if it was just the guest itself, but little things like that put you on the radar immediately. And once you're on the radar, there's no way of getting off. So some back server in some whether it be MI5, MI6, CIA, FBI, and some back server, they're cataloging everything that these minor people like myself do in this activities to try and formulate how this, how to counteract something for us. Usually what they do is what they call a psyop, where they say, look over there while they're doing something over there. They're kind of misinformation. And they're actually, one of the reasons why I think they were spying on me as well is because I talked about a coming coup. Of course, there's the left and the right in my country, in the United States. There's the Democrats and the Republicans, the conservatives and the radical left. Now, what people don't realize is that they're both wings on the same bird. So to pull off some kind of overthrow of our actual government would take both sides. So my plan on that show was to warn people that it's going to get really bad. Coming into the election time, it's going to get really bad. Store up on food, store up on water, get yourself all the things that you need to survive for 3 to 4 weeks when supply chains break down. And I got a lot of flack for that because they thought I was conservative, because the main focus was that Democrats are the one proposing this coup because they don't like the president. They want to overthrow everything, but they're not really Democrats. They're evil. They are not affiliated with any party. They are people who are systematically trying to run government out and objectify the public to what they see as the rules or what they deem accurate. So it's kind of crazy,
Yeah, well, Alex Jones, your David Icke over there, you have a few of them, David Icke's there, but he actually was warning people about this crash in the economy. And he was right, because this has happened. And they were trying to silence him, not only because he infiltrated the cremation of care ceremony, with a lot of top notch there. Now, the other thing is that in terms of this control, or this mechanism of control, what is fascinating, I know it's disturbing as well, but I think and feel that there are other parts to this which are very disturbing, and something that most UFO researchers will not address or want to address, because we've heard of the cattle mutilation that we're still trying to work out. And also the human mutilation, which is something that is a very delicate subject matter, but also the fact of missing people. And I know that, you can go into different areas, but when you're dealing with the UFO subject, let's, for instance, you come into the UFO field of investigations and you're interested in that, you start to find that there are other areas which interconnect with that, which are very interesting. And David Paulides has also written his Missing 411 books out there, which deals with the missing cases in the national parks. Now, that is one area. Which is highly disturbing, and also the fact that most of the police and enforcements, if there are cases of missing people, they will not address this. So over here in England, when we were researching Rendlesham Forest, nearly over a 10-year period, we would hear booms beneath us under the ground. And I've heard from sources that they've also heard these booms underground. And, you know, most people would not even consider looking into it, or, oh, it's just a slight earthquake, or this, that, and the other. So when we had been researching there, going back to David Paulides with his Missing 411 books, his brilliant works, here in England, it appears, and there's another researcher, a brilliant researcher called Paul Sinclair, best-selling author of the Truth Proof series, and he's in Bempton here in England, and there's been a lot of strange phenomena that he's trying to put the pieces together. His word is key is location. But you find within these areas, for instance, Suffolk, where we were doing our research, there is a level of high strangeness. And it does encompass not just UFO sightings, but also other strange phenomena which we experienced. So the question is that these darker forces are obviously aware of these other energies, and that when you start to perform your line of investigations into the work that you're looking at or you're exploring, is that they will inevitably come forward. Now, we also had a case where we had summoned, yes, we had actually summoned a UFO back in 1998. And yet what was strange about it was that no one wanted to know about it. It was incredible. It's been documented and whatever. And that was in Suffolk in England, Rendlesham Forest. So I understood then that the thoughts are something that are able to manifest a reality or bring them in, or maybe you're bringing them and we don't know. We're still exploring that. We still don't know. There was no aliens. It was simply a triangular craft with a circular undercarriage that was very bright and made no sound. It was clearly observable by the three of us. And yet when you try to explore this, where you try to put the pieces together, and you know that experiment came through a song that I heard from the late Karen Carpenter calling Occupants. And one of my chapters in several of my one of my books, but I've mentioned this several times about the experiment that we performed because we wanted to know what we were dealing with. And forget the holographic projection crap that you're told about. Why would the military spend all this money and time on projecting a UFO to three unordinary and very unimportant people? It's ridiculous. They're using that as a cover-up for something else. And we had found also 2 dead animals, a rat and a rabbit, that had been freshly placed on our blanket where we had our little base there, from head to circle in some type of symbol. Wow. And during this time, we tried to get hold of some other researchers to find out why, who, what, where had put it there. So it's very disturbing. And I remembered that me and Ronnie and Susan were very disturbed by that one incident. There were several incidences that occurred there. We didn't always have paranormal experiences or something strange happening, but when they did happen, they seemed to be paramount. So I felt it was more like a warning to say, get away, stay away. And we had helicopters. I couldn't tell if they were black or not because it was pitch black, but they were at low range above the treetops following us when we used to go out late at night there. It's a 2-hour journey from here in Bedford to Suffolk, a car journey. But we'd stay there until the early hours of the morning, but we had been warned off several times. Well, I wouldn't say verbally warned off. Let's just put it this way. We have been hassled by these military helicopters that wanted us off the area, away from the area. Quite why, we don't know. So, you know, that's just one small, tiny example of this whole, I wouldn't call it paranoia, but this cover-up, this darkness. So I do feel that in these certain locations where UFOs have been seen, it could be conceivable to assume that when they penetrate or break through to this reality, that the energies may be distorted and that other energies come through like portals, or there's normally paranormal activity that's like a residue of the events themselves. We don't know. But it's interesting to know that when you go out there and you do your research, and I've done my field research where I can. I'm a little bit too old to go running through fields and things now. But when you go out there, you begin to find your truths. And it tells you that many other people also have their truths that are slightly different from yours, but kind of like parallels in the dots that you're connecting. And we had another British researcher, Tony Dodd, the late Tony Dodd, who did a lot of UFO investigator here in England, who did a lot of research. And I had got a letter back from him, very privileged, with regards to UFO that crashed in South Africa, in the desert out there. And he was very much into the cattle mutilation. And he got himself into some very deep waters, I think, because when he passed, all his research disappeared. His research material disappeared. Yeah, so it's quite, I wouldn't say that it's like the X-Files. I think Chris Carter took that and made it into a very successful series. And I think most of what he's talking about is quite real to the way he imagined it or portrayed it through Mulder and Scully, as it were. But I think that it's dangerous grounds. I think when you start going into the UFO phenomena, you start treading into areas, that is very bizarre.
Absolutely. And, talking about the X-Files, that's why at the end of my intro, you have David Duchovny saying that there's no jurisdiction over the truth. No government agency will have jurisdiction over the truth. But what you just said actually resonated with me, because it takes me back to what you said earlier, saying that we're all important. And they know that. That's why they do these things like send helicopters to follow you out, because they realize one person makes that difference. And it's so evident that they know that by what you're saying now. And, what you keep saying about how important everybody is. They're all, we're all children of God's light. And to me, I think that they want to hush this stuff up, because this great awakening, like you said before too, is happening. And when it happens and it finally blows its top, and everybody feels the backlash or the energetic flow of what's coming, it's going to make a society that's harmonious, that loves one another. And here's another thing I want to tell people too out there, that it's always darkest before the storm, right? So this is the storm, okay? What we're seeing now is the storm. And we went back to rock bottom. There's only one place to go with each other, and that's up. And as we go up, the enlightenment factors, the harmonious factor, there's so many things that are just going to come to light that, I believe that we are closer to a disclosure that's going to change history as we know it. And one of the things that they're actually trying to do in America now is erase history.
Oh,
which, in a way, is symbolic of the next coming age, the next change. Because
absolutely,
history is written by the victors. But when society is ultimately victorious in itself, real history will be uncovered. And we'll have to rearrange the way we think and the way we gauge things because of that history.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And as I said to you before, I mean, there was a YouTube documentary that I saw of the late Michael Jackson, and he was trying to tell the people at this podium that, history is wrong, and that, he's been used and abused, and he had his people there that cheered him on. So, it just goes to show that these darker forces do influence every part of society, not just the music industry or the film industry or whatever industry it is, normally the music and film industry, because they have such a big influence upon the minds of the general public, which can be infiltrated quite quickly through this said programming or subtle programming, psychic programming. I find that we will get to that part where we will discover our true heritage. And that is something I think that will be astounding. But we are still in the Sunday school version of what we are being told. And I think that the reality may be quite too much for some people to handle, but it will come out. This will be revealed because, very simply, my research is also leading me into trying to discover just where we came from. There's nothing wrong in asking yourself or trying to find out what you are. And as I said before on the other show, interestingly, when you go back within academia, you find that they're being silenced, that they can't find the model of what we represent to the older models of what we may have represented. They can't find the missing link, and they will do everything within their power to sidetrack that, preferring the Darwinian thought of creation, Darwin's thoughts of creation. But it could be that we were fashioned from the hominid in order to create this species, to bring the souls into this genesis. And another thing that we need to understand is that I don't think that we are actually from this planet, because through the process of evolution, just for a very quick argument here, through the process of evolution, we would have adapted quite admirably to the conditions of this planet. Yet we shy from our very own sun, and we don't have enough hair on our body to protect us from the elements. So this is something that's quite simple. I mean, you go out and you've got to put some shades on, but if we had adapted to the environment, then we wouldn't have any worries about it, because nature has adapted accordingly. So that's just one sign, and they'll say, "Oh no, you've got it all wrong." So those guys, all of you out there who's looking for your truths, for your answers, you just have to keep digging and looking and seeing the continuous lies and cover-ups and the frustration of the individuals who are researching this. For instance, NASA, I know we're jumping from one to the other, but NASA, we know it says never a straight answer, but at the end of the day, jokes aside, there were interesting cases where certain scientists had seen photography of certain orbital landscapes and seen UFOs, seen structures, and their lives were threatened. So, what does this tell you? What is the big hang-up about saying to people that we are from the stars and that there are other races, other intelligences, and that God is not what we perceive it to be because we are part of that force? What's the big problem?
I don't know. And to think that we're the only specimen of evolution, that we're a statistical anomaly, in the sense that it's statistically impossible, I say this a lot, that there isn't some form of life when there's billions of stars and planets out there. To think that we're the only statistical anomaly out of however many worlds there are is phenomenal, to be so close-minded. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, consciousness. This is the other thing. We tend to look at things in the physical, and we are finding through science that things are not quite what we've been taught, that human consciousness operates on different frequencies of awareness, that this is just a walk-in, that we are literally just a vessel for conscious expression, for awareness of self within this matrix. And then we go out. As I said before, it's like the signals to your mobile phone. It will connect with an instrument. It has to, in order to experience this reality. And then it comes in and goes out. When we pass, we are matched by the normal frequencies. It's like I say to people, you watch television and people switch from one channel to the next. Well, they're real worlds. And if you were matched by that frequency, you'll actually be in that show. You'll be in that world. People won't from this side be able to see you because you'll be matched by that. But this is the whole illusion. I think the people are beginning to wake up and realize that they are much more than just a biological specimen, a piece of meat, with a sell-by date. That sounds crude, but that's what the system wants you to believe.
That's exactly
and yet
right.
We know that there's a lot more to it than that. So, more people, thankfully, are now waking up, knowing that we do live and we do die, but there is a continuation of self beyond this realm. And that self is here to explore new experiences, perhaps even building more memories and, elevating ourselves upwards towards this divine stage of life that the one is learning through us as we through it, and expanding upon the process of creation in every form possible. But this is something the system, as I said, when you look at it, it seems like a Sunday school version. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And, to go back on something you said, if your mind can astral project and your consciousness can be so light that you can travel all over the place, which is a proven fact that people do this,
Yes.
For just that concept alone, should show you that your soul and your mind, when they combine together, it's incredible. It's unfathomable what they can achieve and what they can accomplish. It also goes to the fact where how much power your thoughts and processes have when people come together and they think about something so hard that they almost manifest things into reality right in front of themselves. It's
Yeah.
a wild thing to see. It's like the
Yeah.
power, like when a congregation comes together and, like, let's say somebody's sick, a congregation comes together and they pray for somebody. I know it's a little bit crude to say it like that, but when they pray to that person, they're actually, a lot of the times that person gets healed from their
Yes.
conscious thoughts, which is their
Yep.
soul and their spirit extending energies to that person. So it's wild. It goes so much
Well,
deeper.
you know what's happening there is that the people are drawn to certain elements of music, and music oscillates on frequencies, vibration. And this can enhance the individual. And this is why a lot of musicians, would you believe it, get abducted by aliens, because they are connected to this musical vibrations. Now, thought comes into this reality through the neurological functioning and distributes through every cell of the body. And, if people come together and there is a belief and opening of that reality, it becomes manifest. As I said before, UFOs or the occupants of them probably have found a greater, faster way of manifesting themselves from one reality to the next in the blink of an eye. We do it very slowly. And people say, oh, did you imagine that? Well, I really hate the word imagination because it's like a box in the brain that's open now and again. Imagination is nothing less than mind. Mind is connected to the divine, and that information can come through, and then it can be created within this realm. And I believe that other alternative dimensions of awareness are able just to do that. They're able to connect with you and then interlink through you and then manifest around within your reality. That's why some people, a group of 5 people, and only 3 will see the UFO and the other 2 won't. It's been proven. So consciousness is, I think, the key, and belief also sets us installed to do great things and become vastly powerful within ourselves. And these dark elements, I mean, they may be strong and very, powerful, but they are quite stupid when they're actually, when they're challenged. So being in a group makes them stronger, but they know that individually we can be amazing. So I think we will see a great change with the way that we see one another, where we have the understanding that we are much more than what we are. Yes, they'll try to write it off or change it in some way to make it out like it was always there. But we know the truth. And I think people like yourself and many other good people are going forward with their beliefs to bring this into their reality and to wake people up. If they want to be woken up, we're not forcing anyone. We're just saying, look at it this way. How amazing is this? And it's the same with energies. If we just very briefly state here, the pharmaceutical companies, and I've always known that disease is linked with vibration, that if the organ that resonates on a certain frequency, its correct frequency, which is different from the donors, if it's brought into its correct field of frequency, then the body will be healed. And even people that had near-death experiences that cross over and come back have been healed from terminal cancers, because what's happened is that the energy of the soul is being brought back up to its correct vibrational frequency, and this in turn affects the organs. This is why some organ donors can't, the new body can't accept the organ. It has to, because it's operating on different frequencies. So this is where all of this is coming out, where we've been had. Most of it just wants to control it, not cure it. I think the same with the UFO field and psychic investigations. They want to control it all. They don't want to cure the problem, not just disease or UFOs, many other aspects of what's going on. And as I said to you before, these darker energies feel supremely confident because it is so complex within its symmetry. They think that we will never work it out. But, be very careful, because a lot of people do work things out. People are smart, they're very clever. A lot of people work things out themselves.
Absolutely. And them underestimating people is going to be ultimately their downfall. for sure.
Yeah.
And something that struck me is that you said, with the mind and the manifestation, what you said is sort of like the law of one, where
Yeah.
Ra was here, thought he
Yes.
was there, and there he was there.
Correct.
Which is,
Correct.
if people took the time to, I don't want to say it in a mean way, but if they took the time to stop and try and investigate their own soul and the abilities that they have and the power and just acknowledge the power that they have, it would actually go quite a long ways for everybody
Yeah.
else around them, because things as a simple word can be so profound on somebody's life that you could change their course forever, which is ultimately why getting some of these messages out, even to just touch one person and to help them to see the broader picture, not force them, but to help, include them in that thought and that broader picture, can send them down a rabbit hole, which will change them, down to the most minute cells in their body completely,
Yeah, well, it's the same with anyone that's narrow-minded. All that's happening is that they are not getting the full infiltration of that belief system through to their mind, because the field is so narrow. If they're open-minded, then the conscious connection link is much wider, and of course more information comes through. So this is the whole process of our consciousness, which operates on high or low levels of awareness depending on the type of personality that you are. So I'm not saying being gullible. I'm just saying that, an awareness and an opening seems to increase our connection with the one and with creation itself, and can perform some amazing things. And I believe that that's why a lot of people who are connected or linked with UFO encounters or psychic phenomena, their energies are aware that there's a difference within the processing of energy within that form. They can see it like light, and they're drawn, attracted to it. And I believe that, whereas a lot of people are sucked into the low level of conscious awareness, they're not wanting to come out of that restricted pool. So they're going to round in a circle. God love them. But there'll come a point where they will stop and they'll start to wake up. And if we all were lighting up like light bulbs, how amazing this world would be and what things that we could achieve. So it is very interesting and fascinating within its content.
And another thing that you say too is, that I feel that once you broaden your horizons and open yourself up to that, you will find those like-minded people. It goes back to the saying that misery loves company. People who resonate at a low level and are, they live their lives with blinders on and aren't open to the concepts or things that other people are saying, or to even just give it a thought without disregarding it right away. You'll find people who are like that. And in turn, your life may not be super eventful. You know what I mean? You'll be stuck in some kind of routine. People who tend to open themselves up a little bit more tend to have a more fulfilling life. And this is, not scientifically saying it. Of course, some people who are closed-minded have, there's anomalies to each process, but people who open themselves up to these thought processes or to explore a lot of these things tend to find themselves having more of a fulfilling life and live with a lot less regret as well.
Yes, and it's I'm blessed. I mean, life is not easy for me, but I am blessed with all the people that I know and for the amazing and incredible research that we're doing. And I think sometimes we need that oppression and sometimes difficulty in order to make us realize that we're on the right path. Because if we didn't have that, then I'd be a little bit worried. So I don't think too much, however. I think it should be a nice balance. But we are discovering that by understanding that we have been lied to and there is much more to our existence and the world around us that we've been told is like very physical nuts and bolts, when we're discovering even through science that is not the case at all, even within application of quantum theory. We're not going to go into that, otherwise we'll all have a headache. But it just shows us that these things are possible. and that, you know, you are the limit of your imagination. You can become anything you want by expanding the process of your belief system. But I believe that the system knows this, and that's why it's trying to control its herd. And I really hate that word. I think it's demeaning. I think it's awful. And that's how those draconians, as I call them, see us as nothing more than a herd, that we are, you know, stupid, that we have no brains, that we're just following like cattle. They are very much mistaken, because we are a force not to be reckoned with. And they have to come to understand that, however small or insignificant they think that someone is, you know, be very careful, because all people stand united eventually when they are wronged. And they have every right to do that. So, you know, I think our light is much brighter, and they don't like it. They want to control it and bring it down. As Paul Sinclair said in one of his documentaries, that's been done by another chap who does all the filming. Sorry, I'm losing my words there. Christopher Turner, who does the documentaries for Don't Mention the Reptilians. He did one on Paul Sinclair called Bringing Down the Light. And, you know, this is what it's all about, bringing down the light, trying to stop people from seeing. So I do believe that we are getting stronger, and that no matter what challenges we are met with, people are now demonstrating that they have a voice and they will be heard. They're not going to be told what to do, most definitely. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm damn well not having anyone put a bloody vaccine in me that hasn't been tested.
Never,
and I can
never.
assure you of that, because that is one thing that I think is awful, and that the medical establishment, the legal departments have stated that you have no comeback if something should go wrong. No, no, no. I'm sorry. That is not going to happen. No.
I won't do it, even if they tell you you have to, or even if they've tested it for years. I'm still not going to do it.
No.
Because what they want to do is they want to give you this vaccine that's going to change your cells as they are.
That's correct.
Side effects could be cancerous and all the other things.
Yeah.
You won't be human anymore. You
Yeah.
lose what it is to be human. And you know, we're getting to the end here, but I wanted to ask you, one thing I wanted to say is that I'm actually part of two Facebook groups. One's called High Strangeness, and the other one is called Missing 411. Great groups.
Oh my good Lord.
Yeah, you should check them out. But what I want to end on kind of like an optimistic note. So in the next 10 years, even 20 years, what do you see for humanity in our future?
Well, I believe that within the next few years, we're going to go through some very dark times. However, I believe that we will win, and that in the end, we will win, and people will be victorious. I think the old establishment is antiquated. It needs to be brought down. And I think that's going to happen. I think, you know, unfortunately, Guy Fawkes here in England didn't complete what he set out to do, which was blow up Parliament. So I think, you know, if people will take powers into their own hands, and, you know, and they will bring down an establishment that's so old and controlling. And I think that, you know, every empire eventually crumbles, and through the people who are being controlled. It's an age-old theme. So I think we're going to come into some very good times and some brilliant times. And I think it's a time when we put down our weapons and we hug one another and we say it's fine. We're all one. It doesn't matter what color you are, what creed you are, what sexuality you are, where you come from. We are all one, just, you know, experiencing a reality in a separate vessel for temporarily, as it were, before we return back to the other side and continue our voyage of eternity there.
I feel that you're right on with that. And I believe also that free thinkers like myself and you are going to usher in a new age of intelligence and what it means to be knowledgeable. I believe that we're going to usher in a new age that's going to raise the elevation of frequencies and vibrations in people that are going to extend like a force field around the globe. And I feel that I feel that it's very important for us to maintain this mission of bringing our truths, whatever they may be, to the people. And that's why I do work so hard to make this program the best exchange of knowledge on the internet. I believe that is something that we must do as a people, as humans. We must exchange information. And one thing I want to tell everybody too before we end is that even if you don't agree with what somebody says, have the decency to hear them out and hear what they're saying. Let them back up their whatever they believe, and try and see it from their perspective. Don't downplay it. You don't have to agree at the end either. But as long as you gave them the time and patience to understand, you're always going to be the more better from it.
Wonderful.
And Philip, I want to thank you for being here. And I believe that we just I hope from this we become very good friends, because I believe that there was a connection from us from the moment we were messaging back and forth in the beginning. And I believe it's going to take us into the future. And I see so much greatness coming from the ideas that we put together and we actually come together with. And I feel that
that's great.
Go ahead.
Really grateful to be on your show, and I'm so thankful to you and your team, and also your viewers and listeners. I think it's important that we don't take credit for anything ourselves. That I've always said that we share the information, and it's all there for everyone. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob, for having me on your show. It's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Well, Philip, it was a pleasure and an honor, my friend. I'll tell you that right now. I aspire to be as knowledgeable on some of the facts that you've come to us today. It's so incredible. You have such a great mind and a great way of thinking that it's awesome to me. It's an awesome thing,
Oh, you'll get there. Don't you worry, sir. You will get there. You
I
will.
hope so.
You're there
I hope-
already. I don't
No.
understand what you're saying. We're all great minds. We're just tuning in, and don't put yourself down, please. We're all one, and we're all linked. We're just finding our way.
Of course. I thank you for being here, and it's been a great 2 hours. I mean, I can't wait to do it again. Honestly, I'm so excited. Looking forward to the next time we can do this, and. With that, I'll give you a last word again. I just want to say thank you to everybody. I hope you enjoyed the 2 hours that we put together for you. And go ahead, Philip, take it out.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much indeed. And I just have to say to all your viewers and your listeners to believe in yourself, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Go with your truths and believe that you are much more than flesh and blood with a sell-by date. The system has lied to us, and it will continue to lie until we bring them down.
Love and light. We'll see you all the next time.